T minus 50 seconds. T minus 40 seconds. T minus 30 seconds. T minus 20 seconds. Ten, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
Own it, own it, own it, Kong. I own it. It did.
Women's Wrestling Talk, the #1 women's wrestling show on the planet. Women's Wrestling Talk, the #1 women's wrestling show on the planet.
Whew, what a Monday, y'all. Welcome to Monday. Welcome to Women's Wrestling Talk, the #1 women's wrestling show on the planet. My name is TK Trinidad. This is the WWT Live edition. And let me just be fully transparent. This is our second time doing it because I forgot to hit go live. With that being said, Mr. Professor, what's going on? How are
Take
you
two. I love it. I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm good. We were like really full on, like about to get started, like 10 minutes.
We had gone into, okay, what's the first what's the first article? It was just hilarious. But good to have you back, boss lady.
Thank you. Glad to be back. And the man with the many shirts, Mr. Cedric, what's going on?
I feel like we got to do all that over again. Like, so we had this whole spiel about me having a bunch of different shirts and merchandise, and I said I own every New Day shirt. Then we realized we weren't live, so that all happened. So we kind of got practice to kind of go into what y'all want to hear right now, which is the topics.
Yes, I'm sure you guys didn't want to hear about Cedric's shirt collection, but he has an extensive one. With that being said, what do we have for our first story?
Rope. There are so many places we can go for this first story, but I guess we'll start with this line item about one Tessa Blanchard, whose name, when you say it, kind of has that weird little, twitch. You just get that twitch. Yeah, it just kind of happens with her. So she feels like she's got some unfinished business in the wrestling world, and so she's ready to kind of get back into some things. One of the things that she's getting back into is working back on the indies. So she's recently signed with XPW. She'll make her debut for that promotion on May the 27th. She says that she's got more that she wants to do. She says that fans have been very accepting to her and the like. She's only 27, but there's a lot that she has to do. Now, remembering some of what she did, she was the first woman to hold the men's Impact World Championship. And so she was really kind of on a big roll. But back in January 2020, some folks had some things to say about her backstage behavior. She was criticized for using a racial slur during an argument against La Rosa Negra. And then, of course, that was January 2020. And then, of course, by March, we have the pandemic, the whole wrestling world changed, etc. Last month, apparently, Tessa and La Rosa Negra buried the hatchet. They were in a social media post together. And so it looks like Tessa's ready to get back into the wrestling world. I don't know how everybody else feels about it, but she wants to get back in.
I mean, yes to second chances, I guess. I mean, like we've all, it all are dirt because none of us are perfect. So we've all done or said some crazy stuff that's, if brought to light, I know for sure I would be canceled. Let me just speak for myself. So it's just kind of like, I guess why not? It just really just depends on Black Fist saying she got the attitude of her daddy and family. It really just depends on what she does now. I feel like she was known for having poor etiquette backstage. So now that she is making her way back into the ring and working with organizations, it really just depends on what she does now. If now in a couple months we hear that her attitude still sucks, then it's just kind of like, okay, well, you know, it's like only so many chances we can give you. So yeah, I mean, Hogan is still circling around in the wrestling universe. So
it's interesting you mentioned his name, though, because though he is still circling, not everybody responds to him the way that they once did.
True.
And so that's kind of the other interesting thing. I think what'll be interesting here is obviously, number one, what she does. Also, number two, who's willing to give her an opportunity, right? You know, would she get an opportunity from WWE, from TNA? Again, I don't know, from, you know, AEW, from New Japan. I'm not sure. So if she is relegated to the indies, you know, it may take a while for her to really have to prove herself before another major company is ready to take a chance, because an AEW or WWE or even an Impact right now, they've got a lot more money on the line, and they're not willing to take certain risks. So that'll be interesting.
Yeah. Second chances, yes to that, but like you guys piggybacking off that, it's what you do with those second chances. In the article, she talks a lot about her growth and how she's growing daily and certain things she's doing to practice better habits. And I think in a court of public opinion, you know, the internet never forgets. That's one thing. Whenever her name comes up, all the closets, skeletons, stuff like that will always reemerge and be brought up. But we know on social media recently, her and La Rosa Negra recently posted a picture, I want to say about a month ago. So seemingly they buried the hatchet. So if the person who was affected the most could have forgiven, then why can't the rest of us?
Right.
So like you guys said, she's only 27, a lot of time left for her in ring if she wants to pursue that. But it's just a matter of the PR that we're not going to hear. So we might not hear stuff on the internet about how she is backstage and stuff like that. But if her peers have good things to say about her the next time she gets an opportunity, then that's what matters.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely agree. And the good and the good and bad thing about where we are in society is that everybody has access to social media. So, you know, you'll have, you know, wrestlers do or say things cryptically that we can pick up, or, you know, all the things. So yeah, hopefully she has learned her lesson, and, you know, barring the stuff that from backstage and what she said, the trek that she was on was amazing. Like what she did with, you know, Mae Young, what she did with Impact. Like, you know, I have no doubt if all of that didn't happen, she would have wrestled at AEW. Like she definitely has a lot of talent. So, you know, hopefully it does work out for her. But I think the main thing is, and this is going to sound like real, like LA cliche, you know, get your crystals type thing. But the main thing is, it in her heart, she actually really understood where people were coming from, and she did the research, and she, like, you know, not necessarily asked for forgiveness, but asked for understanding, like talk to those who are willing to talk with her and be open with her as far as what the reasons why people are upset. Then that's my bigger hope, because then now you can evolve as a human and as a person, because at the end of the day, this wrestling thing, these sports things, this TV thing, all that's going to fade, and you're going to be old, and you want to be remembered for the great things you did, not the terrible things that you said when you were in your 20s. So, you know, we'll hopefully, you know, hope for the best for her.
Yeah. And to that end, you know, if she's done the work, that will be much different than what Hogan has done or not done. And I think people will be able to respond to that differently than Hogan just saying, I'm back, you know. So if she's done that work, demonstrates it, I think there's room for that.
Yeah. All right. Well, that's enough time for her. You know, maybe does she deserve this? I feel like we haven't talked about her.
We haven't talked about her that much. So,
but yeah. I mean,
you're gonna put her in the box already?
Yeah, why not?
Already? Wow.
I mean, show us some things before we can talk about you more. We welcomed you back. We're gonna see what's up, but we can't keep talking about you coming back. So let's we'll put you in the box for now. What do we got next?
I want to talk about what was previously the biggest pop I've seen in the last year until Bad Bunny took that a week ago. Bray Wyatt. It's being reported that he's not currently on the WWE's internal roster for anything. Nada, nothing, no plans. So that says a lot. And Bray's been a very polarizing figure for seemingly coming back, doing a lot of cryptic messages, having a lot of angles that have led to nowhere. Kind of the story of his career. A lot of people are upset that they don't actually see him work in the ring. He hasn't wrestled a match in 2 months. So now there's currently no plans for Bray Wyatt. And I think I recently saw him reply on Twitter to somebody that just something along the lines of soon. So is this more like smoke and mirrors, or is this a sign of him possibly being released again? What do you guys think?
Well, Bosa's saying he's been dealing with health issues for a while. PW Insider's reporting Uncle Howdy still is. So I think Bray is a little bit different. Like I definitely agree. There's like stuff in his career where it's like he gets there and then like it kind of fades away. But the ideas that he does come up with, because I believe he has full creative control. Wasn't that part of like his latest contract or something like that? The ideas he comes up with is like pretty good. So I feel like it's probably a combination. Like maybe he is injured and, also searching for that, because he can't just be that guy who's back. It's like, I'm here to wrestle. Like it's definitely very gimmicky. There's a whole story surrounded within the story. So I think this adds more mystique to him. Like I feel like he's not the traditional wrestler. So even though he's not on the internal, that doesn't mean that we're not going to see him.
This is true. Interesting.
The fans kind of turn on him so quick too, man. It's sad to see that. When he came back last year, it was so deafening in that arena. And just months later, everybody's like, oh, well, he hasn't done anything. He hasn't wrestled. So it's like, it's sad to see because he might have real life stuff going on. I think him and Josanne just had a child last year too. So like real life does happen to people and people don't consider it. They just want to be entertained.
Oh, the wonderful internet wrestling community.
What do you think?
Yeah, no, I agree. I think that the internet wrestling community can be fickle, and this is another one of those examples. I mean, I'm not the story that he was starting to tell was certainly meant to be a long-term story. It was not something that was going to just happen in 2 months or happen in 3 months. And I think people all of a sudden, it just amazed me how people went from the intrigue of the White Rabbit and these, QR codes and figuring all that stuff out and people losing their stuff over it to all of a sudden, oh, this story doesn't make sense anymore. It just, Bryan Danielson, when he was the vegan world champion, he said that the fans were fickle. And I think this is being proven right now. I mean, all the folks who screamed and cried for Bray to come back, turn on him this fast because they didn't like the Mountain Dew match, So I think, again, like we've seen in a ton of other people with Carmella and several others, let's give it some time and see what plays out. And we may find out, because people went crazy about Carmella, well, why was she taken off of WrestleMania? Oh, she's good enough to host the unveiling, but she's not. She's pregnant. Then everybody's like, oh, my bad. So I just think we have to kind of give this some time, see where Bray, because here's the other question. If Bray was there right now, where would you put him? What would you do with Bray right now?
Right.
I mean, with all of the stories that are happening right now that have things locked up, where would you put Bray? We've already kind of said we don't expect Bray to fight for a championship. So then that means there has to be some other story somewhere that is of interest for Bray Wyatt. And we don't know what that is. So I think, again, everybody just chill.
People would probably get pissed off about this, but I mean, we're doing it with Brock anyway. He probably would have been the perfect Cody distraction.
Oh, yeah. He could have did some real trippy stuff with Cody.
Yeah, just to like get him away from the belt for like 3-4 months. It could have been the perfect distraction. It would have been just completely ominous, random, like all of his other feuds.
Mhm.
Could have worked.
Yeah. And I guess it still could if he comes back in time.
Yeah, I think that's the good, like, this is essentially what I was saying before. It's a good and bad thing because now we have access to these wrestlers and wrestlers have access to us. It's not, where, the front facing WWE is now speaking for you, even though WWE is, they're kind of tight on the reins with things. But the fact that, we can see that Carmella is pregnant, we could see all these things. It makes for some muddy waters because now we feel like we almost have ownership. Like I bring it to, which has nothing to do with wrestling, but Jamie Foxx, like
perfect example.
Like 3-4 weeks, like everybody's saying, pray for him, pray for him, pray for him. But I'm like looking at these reports, and I'm just like, and I mean, I definitely hope everything is okay. But if he wants to deal with something privately, then let him deal with something privately. Then the daughter comes and said he's okay. He's playing pickleball. People now questioning that. Then there was a release on the show. And it's just kind of like, y'all just need to take a beat. Like
entitlement, like so much entitlement to people's lives that we don't know.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So, we'll see what happens. But I don't believe that he'll be leaving the company. I just believe that, it's either injury, it's timing. I feel like they have enough faith in his gimmicks and his creativity that they're just looking for that right time where if he is injured, for him to not be injured. And then also to like do something, like, come up with something. So I feel like his contract and how he moves within WWE is a little bit different than a lot of the other wrestlers. So
I'm pretty sure that was the most viewed video for the WWE on YouTube last year. His return. No, the actual return.
Oh yeah,
it was big. It was massive. It was massive.
All right, so what do we got next?
All right, well, from the seeming darkness of Bray Wyatt to Dark Side of the Ring, which of course is scheduled to premiere in a couple of weeks, season 4. But there's a little bit of interesting news. Their parent company, Vice Media, who helps to air this, is just filed for bankruptcy. That's kind of a problem because Vice Media is the parent company of Vice TV. So Vice Media has officially filed for bankruptcy in a New York court. And as negative as the idea of bankruptcy sounds, there's actually a plan involved. And maybe they took a plan from WWE, perhaps, because it's believed that them going to file bankruptcy is designed to actually make the sale of Vice Media that much easier. And apparently there's an offer out for Vice Media to the tune of $225 million. So if all goes well, none of this should hopefully be detrimental to the premiere of Dark Side of the Ring, but it's bankruptcy, so you never really know.
This is true. I remember when I used to work for iHeart, they've been talking about bankruptcy for the better part of maybe 5 or 6 years. Like I used to get letters and everything, and it's still there. I don't even know if the bankruptcy happened. I don't know. All I know is that the majority of stations are still there. People are still there. So it just really is just dependent on what it really is. I feel like, us folk who are not swimming in the millions, who are like thousandaires, but we're not millionaires, it's a little bit different when we claim bankruptcy. Like if we claim bankruptcy, that means we don't got nothing. I don't know.
Right.
Tell you, bill collector, I can't tell you when I could pay the bill. I don't even know when I don't know. I can't tell you. So, but it's a little bit different when, people are in the millions and billions, it's typically not the same thing. So we'll see.
Yeah. They play that game a little bit differently.
Yeah.
It also feels like it was kind of a lateral move, kind of a means to the end filing for bankruptcy, because which company could possibly pick it up now? There's apparently an offer at $225 million that they would want. Kind of makes it either. What if this Endeavor company picks it up?
It's interesting.
Endeavor, Paramount, like there's.
Well, I was going to say the Paramount piece. Paramount did this big cut recently that got rid of MTV News, but also got rid of Vice News as well.
Mhm.
So that's a part of this, I'm sure, as well. So this is all, again, these are, to your point, TK, these are, bankruptcy when you're dealing with millionaires and billionaires hits differently than what it is
Mhm.
for us. It means different things too. So
It does. And the thing too with the entertainment industry, because like seeing this a lot, like there's a lot of cuts happening and stuff like that.
Mhm.
But what you're seeing, if you actually read down in a lot of the reports, is that there are a lot of cuts happening. However, there's more jobs actually being created, but those jobs are to make more money. So if you're
Right.
like a creative, and they have to put in money for whatever you're doing as the creative, they're now going to cut your job. And if there was 10 of you, there might be 3 of you now, and they're going to bring on more salespeople, or they're going to bring more ad copy people. They're going to bring more people that are actually going to bring in money. So when you see a lot of these cuts, it's like, yeah, these people are getting cut, but there's a high chance that they're bringing in other people to actually bring in money for the companies. So it's just like a lot of moving parts happening. And also too, with like the Vice News and the MTV News, like, I don't know, let me know in the chat. When is the last time you watched MTV News?
Well, then there's that. It's
Like,
changed quite a bit.
Yeah, when's the last time you watched Vice? And I think the last time I did watch Vice News, I think it's a good product. However, news is not what news is anymore. So,
Right.
We're not looking for the long form type things anymore. You're looking at, like, when I was doing news, you're looking at 90 seconds. Now you're looking at like 63 seconds to
Mhm.
tell a whole story. So, like what Vice was doing was great for people to actually, learn, but that's not the model that we're in right now. So guaranteed they probably weren't selling spots and all the things. So yeah, we'll see.
Yeah. And MTV's changed its function as well. It's not even music television anymore. So,
Yeah.
you're going to have a completely different group of people in there who, if they even watch the news, the news is just going to be presented much differently. And shout out to Kurt Loder.
Yeah, wasn't that like, I remember seeing him when they do the MTV, like this was the 90s thing. Like that's how I know. Like it's just kind of like, it's not what it used to be. It's not what that's not how we get our news. So, that would be
that would be crazy.
All right. Well, I mean, I'm sure Darkside, I don't know. We'll see. It's also numbers too. Darkside Ring is actually doing numbers, and Vice is still around. It's going to be, the shows that are doing the most numbers. I don't see if they're doing great numbers, they would be canceled. So,
yeah, no, Darkside has been doing amazing numbers for them. And that actually led to the Dark Side of Football series and another Darkside series. So yeah, that's kind of the flagship show there.
It's like Dark Side of the 90s, I think.
It all stemmed from Dark Side of the Ring.
Yeah. They actually had great topics for season. I know I think I stopped watching after like season 2 because there was like a really gory one, like the death match one.
Oh, yeah. So then you missed the plane ride from hell one in season 3.
No, I think I did watch the plane ride from hell. I did watch that. There was one, it might have been after that, where it was just like super gory. Like it was like blood, and like I barely watched the episode, and I'm
sure it was the death match one.
And I was like, I'm good. And I haven't been back since, so I have to go back and catch up. But yeah,
season 4, Marty Jannetty.
A little bit much for me. All right, what do we have next?
Well, I want to talk about this because we finally got some more wrinkles into this bloodline saga, but we know a certain cousin that's not going to really be there, and he ain't been there. It's being reported that Dwayne Johnson was actually at a cameo in Fast 10, which is recently released, I think, last week. I don't know if you watched those films. I stopped watching it. There's a funny tweet that's going around about when did the Fast franchise suspend all reality and beliefs. So if you haven't seen that, check it out. But we know that Dwayne Johnson is now back with the franchise after a pretty ugly exit that got very personal between him and Vin Diesel and other cast members, which allowed him to do a spinoff with Hobbs and Shaw. What do you guys think about, one, did you guys see the movie? 2, what does this mean for Dwayne going forward with his franchise, still making movies, and why is he not back in the WWE just yet?
That's loaded. I don't think that Fast and Furious 10 is out yet. I think it's on the way, but I'm just double checking that now. Fast and Furious 10.
That is a good one, JD. That JD, you
Wow.
have this was a good one. JD says sad Dwayne will show up for Vince's family, but not for his own family. That, you know what, JD?
Wow.
I don't think I've ever given this to anybody in the chat before, but that was a good one. That was a good one.
So Fast 10 actually comes out this Friday.
Okay.
Yes, it'll be out this Friday, hence, but that's why there's a spoiler. Go back to the question. I got so stuck on that, but will he come back to WWE? And
I feel like he can use the press, right? After all the Black Adam follow, he can use the press, but he still hasn't hit that button yet.
Yeah, part of me gets concerned because I start thinking about time for him, right? Like, you can't be out of the ring for too long before, your body just doesn't jump back into that, particularly if you're going to be fighting the number one star in the business. Like if you're having a comeback match against a mid-carder that we haven't seen or another legend, then it's all good. But if you're coming back against the guy who, in a few days will be at 1,000 days as WWE champion, you're going to have to do some work to get in shape. And so he's not going to show up for, Money in the Bank or, Extreme Rules or something. It has to be WrestleMania. Like there's no other, it's not going to be Rumble. It has to be Mania. So we're talking adding almost another year to his age at that point. And so it's getting to a point where if he doesn't do it in Philly, it ain't happening. And I'm not sure that it's going to happen in Philly because at this point, he makes too much money for too many other people for him to afford to get hurt. If he gets hurt, because when he got hurt in that match with Cena, that cost him a little bit. And so he's been super careful after that. So I almost am ready to just say, let the dream go. And we'll just remember him as he was. He can come back and do some great promos and we'll all get excited about it. But I don't think at this point, since he didn't do it in LA, which was the perfect time, then I think we missed
Can I play devil's advocate?
Sure.
Why can't it be a squash match? Kind of like Goldberg Lesnar when they redid that. Just a quick 1.5 minute train wreck because arguably Dwayne's the bigger star still. It would add the shock value.
I don't. I think
that wouldn't draw views. If it was like, oh wow, we didn't expect Roman to lose that fast.
It would draw views. If he comes back, period, it'll draw views. I just think that we really want to see him against Roman, and if it was him against Roman and it was a squash match, then it would be like then talking about fickle wrestling fans, then be like, well, what was the point of this? You didn't prepare, right. Like this was terrible. So I feel like maybe it's kind of almost when Eddie Murphy, like the reason why he hadn't done stand-up in so long is just because like he felt like he wasn't like ready to come back. Like he had his thing is like when he came back, he wanted to be the same Eddie Murphy that we knew stand-up wise, but it had been like 20 years since he did a stand-up. So I feel like it's the same thing for The Rock, where I feel like he knows wrestling, he knows the rest, like he knows it, it's in his blood. And I feel like part of him is not going to pull that trigger. One, because there's a lot of people that, financially it doesn't make sense. But two, he knows that he wouldn't be The Rock that we're used to. So like if he's running slow, like we don't see all those things because we just see him in movies. But if he's running slower, if he can't take bumps the same way, if he's just, just older, like we're going to be like, oh, this is not what
I just saw John Cena take like 30 seconds to run the ramp at WrestleMania.
Oh, that was.
And Cena did not look good at Mania. Yeah. Cena didn't look good at SummerSlam, So, but TK, you just raised a point I never thought of. And that is, can The Rock go in a live setting? You do all these movies, you get multiple takes to get it right. You don't get multiple takes at WrestleMania. You got one shot. And so if you mess it up, you don't get to go back. You know, people forget this is the same Rock that forgot his lines, that had to write his lines on his wrist and got called out about it. And that was 10 years ago. So I think we're probably going to have to say there are more reasons right now for him not to show up than for him to show up.
Yeah, I think we all
yeah.
want him to, but then I think we also might be disappointed, which is
Highly.
part of the reason why he hasn't. Like he's
And
like,
I don't blame him.
I know, yeah, and it's like I know you guys want me to, but what you're gonna get is this, and I know you guys are not gonna like that. So like, you know, I can give you what you want, but you know, you're still gonna be upset at me either way. So let me just collect my check. And you guys can still be upset at me, and everything is good. I just and you know, he might surprise us, but I think money wise, it doesn't make any sense. And you know, I know Triple H and a lot of people did say that the Bloodline storyline has more twists and turns and all the things, but yeah, I see it more as, yeah, like you were saying, like more like he might do a promo, he might like affect something, but as far as him wrestling in the ring, yeah, and he looks bigger than before, and not even like just muscle wise,
right?
So it's like you're carrying all that muscle, but have you trained that muscle to actually be to be ring ready? Because it's just almost like you're training a new body for the ring. So there's that element too, and you know, like when does he have time to do that? Like,
what if they did a cinematic match?
But you know what? Hot take. We only really like The Rock for his promos anyway.
True.
Fair. So if he came back and did that, we'd all be satisfied. He can come back and talk a great game. He doesn't have to get back in the ring anymore. And with that, he could do that whenever and however long. He still can talk.
Right. But how much is WWE or Endeavor willing to pay The Rock to talk?
It depends on how much they think he'll bring in.
Right.
They'll pay him. Yeah.
Well, we'll see. Good tease, by the way. I was like, what story are we talking about? I was like, do we have that story?
Right.
So, that was a good tease. But see, this is your first time. Look, this is for you, Cedric.
Well done.
So what do we got next?
Well, going from one great talker to another who made a weird appearance that nobody expected. What do you think you would do if you went to an indie show and the AEW World Champion showed up? You probably wouldn't expect it, and neither did I or anybody else. But MJF, the current AEW World Champion, wrestled his first independent match since he signed with AEW. And he wrestled at a promotion that you may or may not have heard of. It's called Create a Pro Wrestling. And part of the reason that they did this was A, it was their homecoming show. B, it was in Melville, New York, which is in Long Island. And C, that is actually the promotion that he actually broke in the business with. So he was initially promoted to just do a meet and greet, but he wasn't actually advertised to wrestle in a match. So he ended up wrestling in a match against a guy named Leo Sparrow, won the match in about 9 minutes, thanked everybody for all that Create a Pro Wrestling Academy has done. And then, of course, he led to his upcoming main event match against the Four Pillars for the world title at Double or Nothing. But just crazy to think that the AEW World Champion, one of the most prestigious titles in the business, gets defended at an independent show. But that happened this weekend.
I wonder how that conversation went, or did it even happen? Like, I like MJF because I really don't know if he is truly like an asshole and just does whatever he wants, or like he's truly an asshole but respects the business and like knows how to play the game. Like I actually really like that, because I don't know. Somebody can let me know, but it just like I'm very like, because I watched his promo and it's like this is not the first time he's done his long ass promos, but I'm just kind of like, do you like, is this like your true feeling on it, or is this the character that you're playing? And I can't tell the difference, and I like it. I appreciate it.
I think when I saw the video over the weekend, I thought that was really cool, man. I think that's one thing that AEW can do with certain moments that WWE can't, is making magic like that happen. So if you were a fan in attendance there, you had to be so surprised, but also feel very fulfilled, even if you got to do the meet and greet and then he actually wrestled a match. I thought that was solid, man. All around, really cool stuff.
Both saying he's an asshole. So both says
I actually think he's a really nice guy. Just plays the heel role so well. Like,
wait, see, this is what I'm saying. Like, are you serious, or are you joking?
me? No, I think he's probably like a really nice guy, but just plays he lives the gimmick. You know, I don't think he's a mean person in reality at all.
I don't know, because I would find it so funny. Like, say, like, I'm like playing this like possible scenario, and I see him somewhere, and we're just like walking, like it's just like normal people, and he holds the door. Like, I'd be kind of shocked. Like, yeah, like you know what I'm saying? Like, he might be a really nice person, but like it's just he plays it. If it is true, he plays it really well.
Did you sing the musicals? You can't be a bad guy if you sing musicals. Like,
he's just a talented bad guy.
Yeah,
that too.
Oh, well, I got to throw a curveball in here because AEW did some really interesting things this weekend. They did the MJF thing, but then at our Southern Honor show, I don't know if you guys have heard about this, but Carly Bravo, who has been in Ring of Honor and AEW as part of a team called the Infantry with Sean Dean, was scheduled to be in a first-round match of the Jake the Snake Roberts Invitational Legacy Title Tournament. In there, the captain, Sean Dean, comes out. Nobody knows that he's there or why he's there. And he tells Carly that you can't wrestle in this tournament. And Carly's legit like, okay, what are you talking about? This doesn't make sense. And he says, you can't wrestle in this tournament because we have new orders. We are officially all elite. So Carly Bravo finds out that he is signed to all elite at Southern Honor this weekend. Pretty dope. I like that AEW is able to do this kind of stuff randomly at independent shows. It's pretty awesome.
Wait, so were you supposed to say that? Like, isn't it recorded or?
Oh, like, it's recorded. We're going to air the show, but the news is already out. So.
Oh, okay. Because I was like, no, I don't want you getting us in trouble.
Oh, no. The news is out. Yeah. The news went out fast. Okay. So that's why I can talk about it. It's fine. Just making sure. You guys will see it eventually on IWTV, but shout out to Carly Bravo and shout out to all things AEW. I mean, these are cool moments. And this is why going to indie shows are important, because you just don't know, when these kinds of moments will potentially happen.
There it is. And speaking of moments of the past, we're going to get into it.
It's wrestling facts. Yeah.
I see what you did there. Very nice. Very nice. All right. Well, let's hop into these vintage wrestling facts very quickly. Let's go back to 1992, which isn't too far in the vault, just about 30 years. Though I realize there are probably some people watching this that were not born 30 years ago. Ella. So 30 years ago, I guess 31 years ago today, the promotion AAA, which we do a lot of talking about, officially launched on this day in 1992. AAA, of course, brought us guys like Conan, also brought us, of course, Rey Mysterio. And in modern day times, well, actually, I can go back. We can talk about a lot of that lucha movement that became the cruiserweight division in WCW came from AAA. And now we can look at guys like El Hijo del Vikingo and Commander and several others that are still coming from AAA. So AAA has done very, very well. Let's move it to 2000 because I mentioned WCW. WCW Nitro on this day came from Biloxi, Mississippi, and had not one, not two, but three title changes. The first was a tag team title change where the team known as Chronic, nothing to do with Snoop or Dr. Dre, by the way. It consisted of Brian Adams, Brian Clark, who were once known as Adam Bomb and Crush in the WWE. They defeated the franchise Shane Douglas, former ECW world champion, and a guy called The Wall. Imagine that being your wrestling name. So they won the tag titles from those two. Also, and I can't even explain how this happens, but it just happens. There was a tag match, a mixed tag match for the Cruiserweight Championship where Crowbar and Daphne defeated Chris Candido and Tammy. Wacky WCW booking. And, of course, to end that night, Ric Flair would win his 15th World Championship by defeating Jeff Jarrett for the WCW World title. Again, in 2000, folks. 2000. Same day. Well, let's not talk about the same day. Let's talk about 2001. That's better. 2001, in Louisville, Kentucky. It was the go-home episode of SmackDown right before the Judgment Day pay-per-view. And Triple H and The Undertaker were in the main event, and they fought to a no contest. Now, this is important because this would be the last time you would see Triple H on SmackDown for about 8 to 9 months. Because after Judgment Day, Monday Night Raw, where he would tear his quads, and we wouldn't see him for about 9 months. This day in 2004, in Lexington, Massachusetts, a team called the Second City Saints, it's a team of Colt Cabana and CM Punk during happier times, defeated the Briscoes to become the ROH Tag Team Champions. Who would know how messy their lives would turn out to be years later? Then in 2005, I mentioned, of course, Jeff Jarrett losing the WCW World title in 2000. Well, in 2005, he would win the NWA World Championship from AJ Styles in the main event of TNA Hard Justice. And in case you guys didn't know, TNA was once a part of the NWA and recognized the NWA World Championship as its world title until it eventually broke away and created its own world championship. 2006, more wacky and interesting title changes. Shelton Benjamin regains the Intercontinental Championship from RVD, but not in a normal match, in a 3-on-2 Texas Tornado match. Yeah, just strange. That's all I can say about it. Very, very strange. All right. 2007, ECW icon Sabu ends up leaving the WWE after being there for a year. Of course, some people would like to forget ECW's WWE run when they called it WWECW, but you remember that too. All right. Last but not least, in 2011, again, a bad day for RVD. RVD, of course, in 2006 lost the Intercontinental Championship. 5 years later, he would lose the TNA World Championship, and he'd lose that to Sting in the main event of TNA Sacrifice. Now, this is also interesting because it marked the one and only ring appearance for Chyna in TNA. Probably forgot that. I know I did. Chyna was in a mixed tag match with Kurt Angle, and they defeated Jeff and Karen Jarrett. Lots of interesting history there. Also interesting that, well, never mind. Let's just not do that. That's what happened on this day in 2011, and those are your vintage wrestling facts.
I kind of want to know what you were going to say there.
Vintage wrestling facts. Yeah.
Well, I what I was going to say was I just think it's interesting that Kurt Angle ends up being kind of the guy who ends up in these interesting mixed tag matches when you want to introduce people to promotions. Chyna to TNA, Ronda Rousey to WWE, just kind of one of those things, you know.
That's an interesting parallel.
Yeah. Yeah.
There it is. With that being said, I think the other stuff, you know, this ongoing story. What are you going to say?
I got one because I didn't see this on our sheet, but we talked about this in the chat a little bit, I think yesterday. This is Women's Wrestling Talk. And what did you guys think of Alundra Blaze's remarks in regards to Trish Stratus on social media? Her saying that Trish kind of undone everything she did to build up women's wrestling.
Whew.
We should
Is
have
that
started.
kiss babe? Is that her angling for kind of a match, or is that like real spill?
If you watched, because we actually got to interview Medusa. God, was it last year? I don't know. These interviews blend together, but we got to interview her, and she did talk about the fact that she never officially retired, and that she does want like another round to like actually like retire, because all of us know how it all happened, and then she did the monster truck driving and all the things. So when I saw this, because this actually went out in also the Women's Wrestling Talk chat, it felt like, because she seems like a really like no nonsense woman, but also nice. So it felt like either that she is angling because Trish is back and Lita's back. I mean, they're, you know, it's at the capacity that they're at, that she is angling. And the fact Trish did make that statement, you know, with the evolution of women's wrestling, like we can't not talk about Medusa. So I think, and I'm hoping this is more of an angle than reality. But again, this was kind of what we were talking about before. Back before social media, we really don't know what happened in the locker rooms. We really don't know what people are really saying. And, you know, I feel like people in general, we weren't really able to air our grievances or have problems or all that stuff. So, yeah, I'm hoping it's a work, but it might not be.
It's hard to say. It's really hard to say. You know, it's interesting when you think about the eras that both Medusa and Trish Stratus have been a part of, because Medusa's era was interesting. You know, that late 80s, early 90s, when, again, wrestlers were trying to move from under the shadow of the Fabulous Moolah and from being just an attraction. And a lot of people talk about the killer match she had with Bull Nakano on Monday Night Raw, you know, which was a game changer that WWE clearly wasn't ready for. So, you know, you fast forward to a Trish Stratus, and, you know, Trish Stratus, of course, enters the business managing a team called TNA, right? You know, and they were leveraging, obviously, her being a model and things of that nature. And her early spaces in wrestling weren't the greatest because she was learning. But then there was a moment where things kind of clicked for her. So it's interesting. It'd be hard to validate that statement from Medusa that Trish undid everything that Medusa, like, I can't find validity in that. I mean, if anything, I think Trish built on it and laid another layer of a platform so that we can have kind of the women's movement that we have now. I don't see anything that she did to undo it. So my hope is with what you said, TK, that this is kind of an angle to do enough stuff socially to get her in a conversation. Now, I'm interested in how they would spin that if they are trying to bring her back, how they will position that. That'll be interesting to see.
We shall see. I mean, we always have SummerSlam, and I actually would really love to see that, because
that'd be dope.
Yeah, I think, but I don't think the difference between, like, how we were talking about, like, The Rock. I think Medusa has been. She's ring ready. Like, I feel like she's always like a few steps away from being ring ready. Whereas The Rock is like, I'm gonna lift this and all the monster trucks in my house, and I'm just gonna be big. And I'm gonna be movie ready. So I would like to see that, but, you know, we'll see.
It'd be very telling that Trish doesn't respond to it.
But maybe that's the angle too.
Right.
So it's just kind of like, you know, these are very experienced wrestlers, and I feel like they both know how to use social media to their benefit. Like, they're not on social media all the time, but they're on social media, and we don't know what's going on behind the scenes. So if Trish doesn't respond, you know, we might see Medusa just show up on a show, which would be fucking awesome. So, you know, we don't know. But what we do know is that we need to get out of here because we have a whole nother show after this. And with that being said, Cedric with the 102 t-shirts, where can everybody find you?
102, okay. You can find me on the Bird app at Say It Says at CEDD_SAYS, on the gram at Said Is The Answer, and on Daily DDT. I write articles. Wrote an article about Backlash a week ago. Check out some of my work there.
And Mr. Professor?
You can check me at Bonnerfied on all of the socials. You can also check out my commentary work with Southern Honor on IWTV. SHW 50 will be dropping really soon, so make sure you check that out. Also, all things Battle Slam you can check on Fight TV, and I hear there might be a Battle Slam announcement coming this week, so that'll be cool. And then we have all things Nightmare Factory on YouTube as well, and I thought I had something else to mention, but I can't remember what it is. So that'll be cool. Check out all things again here at Bonnerfied, and I'll be here on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays.
There it is. You can find me on everything at TK Trinidad. Make sure you follow us on everything at WW Talk Pod, social media, all that good stuff. And like I said, we have WOW right after this. We also have our Raw show as well, and so many other shows. So take a look. Until then, we will see you guys, well, in this hour, but then also on Wednesday, pretty much every day of the week. Ciao, y'all. Hey peeps, TK Trinidad here, boss lady of Women's Wrestling Talk. And I want to say thank you so much for watching, because you've got millions of options. Plus, you don't have to worry about sharing your password to check us out. But while you're here, hopefully you know we have so many more shows to watch, like Turnbuckle Glam, Raw post-show, WOW post-show, AEW Dynamite post-show, Women's Wrestling Army post-show, NXT post-show, Impact Wrestling post-show, AEW Rampage and SmackDown Live post-show, On the Scroll, ROH post-show, WWT Live, plus all of our interviews with the hottest women's wrestlers in the game. Make sure that you like, comment, and subscribe. Check out our website at www.talkpod.com and follow us on all social media platforms at www.talkpod, and make sure to spread the word. That means send this to the group chat. Yes, even the person with the green bubble. Thanks again so much for watching Women's Wrestling Talk, the #1 women's wrestling show on the planet. Ciao for now.
Women's Wrestling Talk, the #1 women's wrestling show on the planet.